We read in the papers and hear on the air of killing and stealing and crime everywhere. We sigh and we say as we notice the trend. This younger generation, or where will it end? But can we be sure that it's their fault alone? Are we less guilty who place in their way so many things that lead them astray? Too much money, too much idle time, too many movies of passion and crime, too many books not fit to be read, too much evil in what they hear said, too many children encouraged to roam, and too many parents who won't stay at home. Kids don't write the movies, they don't write the books, they don't paint gay pictures of gangsters and crooks. They don't make the liquor, they don't make the laws, they don't make the cars, they don't make the bars, they don't make the drugs that muddle the brain. It's all done by older folk, greedy for gain. Delinquent teenagers, oh, how we condemn the sins of the nation. We blame on them, but by the laws of the blameless, a Savior made known. Who is there amongst you to cast the first stone? For in so many cases, it's sad, but it's true. The title delinquent fits older folk too. This show is dedicated to the mental health of our young people. Today, we're dealing with the state of youth mental health. My name is Donnie Glover. I'll be your host. The show is brought to you by New Life Recovery Center. It's a nationally accredited and state licensed center that provides substance abuse treatment and mental health services. Call 240-253-3663. The number is right below, 240-253-3663, or you can visit newliferecovery.org. It's brought to you by Mr. Ven McCormick, our fearless leader. And if I think better, I do better. So we'd love to get your thoughts today on where our young people are, what type of world we have left for them, what type of world they will inherit. Have we prepared our young people for leadership? Have we given them everything that our parents gave us? I've seen a lot of parents. I'm a parent, grandparent. Sometimes we struggle with our children. I try to remember my own parents. I think our parents did the very best they knew how. And if they could have done better, they would have, in generally speaking. A lot of people did not have both parents in the household. A lot of people didn't have any parents at all. 70% of the Black community is single mother-headed household. So you have a lot of fathers who are not in their children's lives for any number of reasons. But the problem, the situation, the condition, the state remains the same if nothing changes. So what are we going to do about it as a society? There's been, particularly here in Baltimore on Fox News, this ongoing conversation about juvenile justice. A lot of young people in our community know that they can get away with doing certain things. They won't be charged as an adult. Whatever the case, too many of our young people are ending up ultimately being adjudicated, being put into and through the criminal justice system. And that's just not where we want our young people. I heard an interesting question posed over the weekend. White guy was posing it. It's like, is racism a bigger issue than the fact that we have 70% single mother households in the Black community? In other words, should Black people be focused on racism more than we should be focused on getting these fathers in these young people's lives? I found it to be a very interesting question. Both. You cannot negate the history, the legacy, the effects of racism in America. Undeniable. In many ways, the 70% single mother household can be traced back to the systemic racism in this country, including the welfare system. I think back to the movie Claudine, where, if you remember, James Earl Jones was the trash man. and he was dating Claudine. That's her name, Claudine. And he had to leave the house when the social worker came around. And that mentality has been replicated, just like how segregation started in Baltimore. It was replicated, started here, then replicated around the country. They came up with the redlining where blacks couldn't move into white neighborhoods, whites couldn't move into black neighborhoods. All that well and said and done. At the end of the day, we got to get these fathers involved with these young people. And if black men are leading, starring in the prison movie, then we have serious issues. We have serious issues when our young people rather choose standing on a corner selling weed than going to school. We have serious issues. And not saying that a father is the end all to be all, but we have a lot of young men who have never been raised by a man. And I think there's a difference. Not in all cases, of course not. There are many women who have always raised strong black men. I have a dear friend, and his mother raised them without their father. Speaking of fathers, and this is painful to say, I've tried to be as active as possible in my children's lives. They're 28 and 23. If you're a parent, then you know your job never ends. But there are a lot of fathers who are not in their children's lives. And there are no excuses for that. You made a child, you got to help raise the child. When we as men don't do that, we failed our ancestors. We failed God. Tell you something else, and I've heard this scenario many times of women who got divorced and the father chose to punish the woman and just stop all financial support altogether. I just don't get that. If you have it, pay it. She needs that money. She didn't make that child by herself, and it's wrong to just leave that child out there hanging. I can't begin to tell you how many stories I've heard over the years. And a lot of women overcome that lack of support from that man who she was married to. They overcome it like heroes, like champions. But the unfortunate part is that the child sees it, hears it, experiences it. The child hears what the mother says in private conversations and whispers, whether they talk about the father openly or not. The child hears it, and the child is traumatized. And that's what we're dealing with many times in the Black community, traumatization. And it shows in various forms, be it sexual, be it drugs, be it alcohol, be it hanging out late, be it not coming home at all. Our children are left fending for themselves, baffled, confused as to what to do. And that's what we have out here. We have a lot of young people who just haven't had parenting, who just haven't been loved, who just haven't been hugged, who just haven't been told that I love you. And so it's only going to get increasingly challenging. It's not government's job to raise our children. The government does do things that affect and or disaffect our children. One being when they took prayer out of the schools. We call ourselves a Christian nation, yet we respect an atheist point of view to take prayer out of schools. Go figure. And right now in America, there's this rise of evangelical Christians. And I swear they don't serve the same God as I just don't believe it. Because racism I see at the bottom. That's what I see at the bottom of it. Racism and sexism. And I think that's why Trump won overwhelmingly, because so many people are caught up in racism and sexism, however you want to paint it, from both sides, the Democratic and the Republican side. Racism has never been addressed in this country. It certainly has never been addressed, if you ask me, in Baltimore. And so when you do get blacks rising through the ranks politically, such as the case in Baltimore, and then you have one media outlet pushing legislation to reduce the city council, to create term limits, that this affects black people more than anybody else. One of the things it says to me is that, given that we have blacks in all of these political positions, actions need to be made, done, that help empower the black community. What's the point of having black elected officials if they're not going to speak truth to power on black issues? It is imperative that black issues be discussed by our black politicians. So it is our hope that more of us will get involved in the political process. More of us will take a stance, get involved, know who your politicians are, get their phone number, get their cell number, get involved with them, find out what they need, volunteer, donate to their campaigns so that you can have their ear. And then we also have to go to the city council meetings, and we also have to go to the Maryland General Assembly. That's coming up mid-January, typically January 15th through April 15th. 90 days where all of these state representatives, the 41 state senators and 147 state delegates, they're all in Annapolis. 2,500 bills will be discussed every session. And it's up to us to get down there and to make our voices heard, to find out about the resources that we need. So our guest is here, the one and only Jacqui Cummings. How you doing, love?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm grateful. I'm grateful.
That's my song. You've been low. Okay.
So Alicia Keys, we're talking about the state of mental health of our young people. And so prior to you coming on, I want to share something with you. And I've shared it with a few people as of late. It's a poem. And you are a parent, correct?
I am. Of two adults.
Because we got to reach out. And I think your presence really helps shape this conversation. So the poem is called, it's by Khalil Gibran. And it's not long, relatively short. Your children are not your children. They are sons and daughters of life's longing for itself. They come through you, but not from you. And though they are with you, yet they belong not to you. You may give them your love, but not your thoughts, for they have their own thoughts. You may house their bodies, but not their souls, for their souls dwell in the house of tomorrow, which you cannot visit, not even in your dreams. You may strive to be like them, but seek not to make them like you, for life goes not backward, nor tarries with yesterday. You are the bows from which your children as living arrows are sent forth. The archer sees the mark and upon the path of the infinite, and he bends you with his might, that his arrows may go swift and far. Let your bending in the archer's hand be for gladness. But even as he loves the arrow that flies, so he also loves the bow that is stable. Your thoughts?
That's a very powerful poem, for sure. I love it. I agree with it. Very powerful statements made. And parents need to learn how to understand that they are the bow and the children are the arrow. And they need to pull back sometimes, because a lot of times parents put too much of themselves in their children and don't allow their children to be their true and authentic selves. Oftentimes, students become very discouraged because they can't live up to the standards, or just simply don't want to live up to the standards of their parents. Times have changed. And parents sometimes have a tendency of saying, when I was your age, honey,
Our parents said that to us.
but when I will never say that to my children, because when I was their age, we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have cell phones when they were younger growing up. Now they're adults, they're 30 and 33. But when they were young children, we didn't have cell phones. And we didn't have to compete as parents with society and on the scale that we have to now.
Yes, yes.
And so, as a parent of two strong and beautiful adults, adult daughters, I had to teach them at a very young age how to be successful, how to be loving and nurturing, and be strong. A lot of times, we as parents, especially as Black mothers, we teach our daughters often to be strong and courageous, but we forget to teach them to be loving and nurturing. We have to give them balance and do both.
You know anything about raising boys?
Nothing. But I always said if I had a son, I would teach him to be loving and nurturing and confident, just like I teach my girls. And my mom taught, I was having a conversation with somebody last night about this. In our house growing up, we were all taught the same things. Girls took out the trash and boys took out the trash. Boys and girls learned how to cook. Boys and girls learned how to sew. Boys and girls learned how to clean. There was no gender specific task around the house. We had to be well rounded and learn how to do everything. So if I had a son, I would teach him to be well rounded. I would teach him to be in touch with his feelings and understand how to express himself without making him feel like, oh, boys don't cry. Then what are you teaching your children if you're teaching him that he's not allowed to cry or to express his feelings? That's not teaching him to be a
I gotta share
coward.
this with you, Jacqui. I'm watching social media, and I think I'm going on a fast from social media because sometimes I see some really dumb stuff and I just gotta pause it.
Okay.
I'm watching this woman, and I would say she's 25, and the father. So put them between 25 and 30. And they
Okay.
got a little toddler, and they're teaching the toddler some dance. The first word of the song is the B word.
Nope.
What am I missing? What planet do these people come from? They say your children are not your children. Okay. Now, I get it that things change over time. I get it. Our situation is different from our parents' situation. But some things don't change. Honor
Respect should
thy
not
father and
change.
your mother, that
Yeah.
thy days may be long. Period. Ain't no buts. Period.
But you have to understand that, unfortunately, a lot of young people in this generation aren't even going to
Who the
church to
hell teaches that
know
kid the B
anything
word?
about honoring thy mother and thy father, because mothers and fathers of today aren't the same as they were yesteryear. See, our mothers and fathers taught us things that raised us with morals, principles, values, and integrity. Like you said, they teaching that child to twerk and and do dances and songs with words that start with the letter B. Like, are you serious? My children weren't allowed to curse around me. What? Even if they chose to, my daughter is 33 years old and still absolutely will not use profanity in my presence. And if her peers are anywhere in my presence and they even think they're comfortable enough to say uh, a word using profanity because they're adults, she will say, not in front of my mother. Not in front of my mother. Girl, watch yourself. You in front of my mom. And I just love it because that's respect.
I remember years ago, there was this thing in the Black community where children were calling parents by their first name.
Nope, not in my house.
I don't hear that nowadays, but I remember it upsetting a lot of older people. So maybe it's like uh, ebbs and flows, peaks and valleys, but respect, I could never imagine cussing in front of my grandmother.
What? No.
I could never imagine my grandmother being tatted up.
But see, grandmothers were grandma age back then. See, nowadays, some grandmothers are in their 30s.
Yeah, my grandma was old. She was up there in her 70s and 80s.
Yeah,
That's all I knew was an older grandma.
but see, nowadays, some grandmas just aren't old anymore. Some grandmas are really in their 30s.
At the same time, respect don't stop.
While I agree, respect does not stop, but respect is
It shouldn't stop.
respect. I agree, respect does not stop, should not stop. It shouldn't. But when you're dealing with young people who aren't taught better, they aren't taught to do better.
You work with young people, Notre Maison. Tell them what Notre Maison is all about.
Absolutely. So at Notre Maison Connects is a nonprofit organization working with youth 18 to 21. Some of our youth actually stay in the program and are now 22 and 23 years old. We teach them respect. We teach them integrity. We work with them and we teach them about responsibility and accountability, morals, principles, values. Unfortunately, a lot of our young people in our program are raised in single family homes. Some of our young people, both parents are deceased or they live with their grandparents. So we pretty much nurture them and teach them and train them and prepare them for the work environment. We teach them things that some of our children's their parents have told them, when you turn 18, you getting out of my house. Not in my house. You're not getting out until you're ready. When you're ready, you go. When you're ready. But I'm training you from the womb. So
Could you
when you
say that
get to
again?
be
You
18, you're gonna be ready. Oh, but I digress. So Notre Maison
no,
Connect.
no, 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 no. What'd you say about 18? Did you get the
Sometimes,
instruction that at 18 you were leaving?
yeah, sometimes I hear that because I'm a school counselor. So sometimes I hear that parents have told their young people that, and young people believe it and are afraid. So when they turn 18, I gotta move, I gotta get out. And I
If
haven't even
we
been
are,
taught.
yeah, but here's the other thing. Our parents told us that, but they also gave us preparation.
See, that's just it. Exactly.
So you can't give somebody the ultimatum, but you haven't created opportunities for them.
Of course they can, and they do. Not to say that it's correct, but they do.
I knew at 14, 15, at 18, the party's over.
Well,
Whether or not,
I prepared my daughters from the womb
yeah,
to learn how to be good adults, not to teach them to be grown and sassy, but to teach them to learn how to make solid decisions. So if we teach them how to be good adults, they will naturally learn how to become good children, but with an understanding that this is appropriate behavior and this is inappropriate behavior. So when I taught my daughters growing up, they were prepared. That's why my
At what age did they leave?
so my oldest daughter left when she was 18. She moved to Georgia State from Baltimore to Georgia to study biology at Georgia State. My youngest one moved out at 19 to study to act and model in California. She's been there for 11 years. She's just moving back this week to Baltimore
Good for
to
you.
open a restaurant in the Chill Spot. The 30-year-old has been in Atlanta, Georgia since the age of 18. She lives in Buckhead. She's the owner and operator of her own tractor trailer. So it's not that I said you got to get out when you turn 18. I never told my daughters that. And I always provide a home for them to come to. And now my youngest daughter is 30 years old. She's getting married in March. And her and her fiance are coming to Baltimore. I'm very, very excited. My son-in-law is a fashion designer. He's opening a store on 25th Street. My daughter is she acts and models, so you'll see her on a lot of different commercials. If you knew what she looked like me with blonde hair. um, and she's moving back here to so they can start a family.
Now I haven't seen you in a minute. You were a dreadlock at one time.
I was, baby, but you see this little haircut. So I did not have dreadlocks. I had locks, and I cut my locks of 25 years. They came almost to my ankles.
Wow. So
But one thing I must say about that, I loved my locks. People say, oh, I cut my locks because they carry too much negative energy. I did not cut my locks because my locks carried negative energy. I don't allow negative energy in my space. I don't allow negative energy around me. I cut my locks because they became very uncomfortable. They became heavy. They needed their own side of the bed to sleep on. They needed their own car seat when I drove. I cut my locks because 25 years was a quarter of a century. Been there, did that. It was a beautiful journey. And now it's time to move on. And I decided that if anything becomes too uncomfortable for me, it's okay to let it go. And so I did. And
so
that's what we need to do.
so any advice for parents? Any parenting advice?
Absolutely. So, one, teach your children as young as possible that they are important to the family and that it is very important for them to make a contribution, no matter what the contribution is. I taught my daughters when we would go out, if I needed gas for the vehicle, one of them would get out and pump the gas. I would pay them a quarter. Now this was 30 years ago. I would pay them a quarter. And if any little assignment or any little chore that they did or helped with, sometimes I would give them a dollar, a quarter, or something like that. So I'm teaching them to earn money. Then I taught them when we go somewhere, what's your contribution? Right? What contribution are you making to this at that time McDonald's meal? They're like, hey, I have a quarter. I have 50 cents. That they knew that the meal cost more, but it was important for them and they were excited to help. One day they said, Mom, can we go outside and play at the playground? And I said, I have to clean up the whole house by myself. I have to clean up, I have to, wash the walls. I have to do everything by myself. By the time I finish, it's gonna be late. We'll help. What's that word? Contribution. We'll help. So I said, okay, really? I said, well, if you help me, then that'll give me more time to do other things that you want to do. So great. We can go to play at the playground if you want to do that. So That day they helped. And then we went to the Dollar Tree or some little store. I got them pink and purple buckets with pink and purple spray bottles for dish soap to scrub the walls. I got them little special rags. I got them pink and purple brushes. Everything that matched. This is your purple bucket. This is your pink bucket. And they went through the house. They cleaned the baseboards. They cleaned the walls. They cleaned everything. They helped. And even though secretly, sometimes I went behind them and went behind them. They knew that it was their contribution. So it was no more running down the steps with their fingerprints along both sides of the wall. Like, wee! No, none of that. Because they knew that their fingerprints they would be scrubbing their own fingerprints off the wall. So it helped them to keep the house clean because they were accountable. So I would say definitely teach them that word contribution. Make them understand that their contribution is important to the well-being of the household, that they are important. A lot of times we want our children to have a lot of things that we did not have. My children had things that I didn't have. I always wanted the red wagon. I always wanted a special rocking horse, all of that stuff, but it was earned. They earned it. And if you can't earn it, you don't deserve it. And the more they earn, the more they appreciate. So,
what about school, education?
oh, don't get me started on that.
Well, you're an educator. I think this would be a perfect question.
Well, the thing is that I've been in education for 30 years, and students have taught me so much. One of the biggest problems I have with education, which is why one of the reasons why I started Notre Maison Connects, is that school systems aren't designed or developed to the modern day technology. Okay, you have a student working on a laptop, and what? They don't teach children cursive writing. They don't teach children handwriting. You have adults who don't know how to write their name in cursive. You have adults who penmanship is horrible because they don't teach it anymore, and they haven't. They don't know how to sign contracts. They hardly know how to read contracts. So life skills, they took out home economics. Life skills are not taught in schools. So students and children don't have they don't have a connection to why education is important. They teach history, but it's not our history. So they're not seen in the textbooks. They're not seen in the literature that's being forced on them to learn. So they don't feel like their family member or their heritage or their ancestors have made a contribution to the world. So I feel like the biggest downfall to education, modern education, is that we're still underrepresented.
We have a Black governor now, and this is not even a question, more of a comment. I remember as that was being celebrated, the first Black governor. I've always been of the ilk. What will that mean for the rest of us? Just like when Barack Obama was president, how will that translate to empowerment for our community? A Black mayor, a Black state's attorney. How does this benefit us? I remember a lady down on the Eastern Shore. She does these Harriet Tubman reenactments. And she said, when Barack Obama, I said, what would Harriet Tubman say to Barack Obama? And she said, Harriet Tubman would say, Barack, it was never supposed to be about you. It was supposed to be about us. So with a Black governor, with Baltimore City and Prince George's County public schools at the bottom of the barrel, what I talked about and have since the campaign for governor was a task force for Baltimore City and Prince George's County. I know also that he chose his own Secretary of Education. What does that mean for Black people? Why aren't we in the in the history books, in the curriculum? Why aren't white students and Asian students and Latino students learning more about Black history? That our history, for one, did not start nor end with slavery.
Still not relevant. It's still not making connections. They have to revive the entire curriculum. And they need to bring back, they need to teach financial literacy in schools. They need to teach entrepreneurship and not employment. Not just employment.
So the crux of this show is about the state of youth mental health. How are our young people from your perspective?
Delusional. Delusional and entitled.
Oh my God, I didn't even get to that entitled question. Okay, deserving of special privileges as if it's owed to them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Too many of them are disrespectful. Too many.
A $200 belt for a 15-year-old. Negro on what planet?
That stands on the bus stop. $800 tennis shoes. Standing on the bus stop.
Negro, it ain't happening.
See,
you got
I was
$800 to put on some tennis shoes. You got $800 to help with this mortgage.
I was taught that before there were no $800 tennis shoes. We weren't even buying $200 tennis shoes because we were interested in buying a car.
Yeah, that's the first big money purchase many of us looked at.
I didn't care about tennis shoes. I didn't care about designer clothes or none of that. I mean, in high school, we had Donnie, Jordache, Sergio, Lacoste, Calvin Klein, Guess.
You had a summer job, 6 weeks, 3 checks, 4 weeks in the hole. Get your last check just before school open. You get to go do some school shopping and get off your mother's back about, "Ma, I need some money for some Jordache." Yeah. I love my summer corps job.
I didn't.
The kids down the street would not work. They would not work a summer corps job.
I didn't have a summer corps job. I had a job at a country club in Towson. And that's what I started with when I was in college. I was allowed to work once I got to college, but I was always held accountable for keeping my grades up. My mom said, you have to have good grades in order to, not just average grades, you have to have good grades in order for me to pay for you to go to driver's school. Same principles and values I instilled in my children. If you're not doing what you're supposed to do, what are you expecting from me? I don't understand. Help me understand. You gotta stay on task. You gotta stay on point. Shoot.
What happens with entitled people?
They are often disappointed, and when they are disappointed, they go through these temper tantrums. Children and adults. Children and adults. Are you going through a temper tantrum because you didn't get your way? Really? Okay. Throw a temper tantrum. I don't care.
What role do fathers play in the state of youth mental health? We got 70% single mother households.
So this is what my daughter told me one day, and I thought this was, woo. So there's a man that divorced was married to a solid, strong Black woman. She left him. for a lot of reasons. She left. He married the cleaning lady, uh, Hispanic cleaning lady that they worked together. He worked with. And so the father said to the child, as an adult, I love my wife. She's so catering. She's so kind. She's so this. She's so that. And so the daughter said to the father, well, why didn't you raise me like that? You raised me to be strong and independent. So if you wanted me to be a good, the kind of wife that a black man would want to marry, why didn't you raise me like that? And I thought that was a very good question, because fathers, black women aren't taught to be loving and nurturing. We're taught to be survivors. And all too often, so many of them, not, and this is not everyone or all, this is so many of them are taught to survive. And and oftentimes what we have to do is to manage everything, manage households, manage children, manage the job, manage the financial balances for the house, take care of the pets, everything, everything without a break. And then people want to complain or say, oh, she's an angry black woman. No, she's not. She's tired. That's what she is. She's tired. And solid sisters, strong black women, we don't mind following. We just don't follow bullshit shenanigans. We don't want to follow shenanigans. Step in as a strong leader. We'll follow, because it takes a lot of weight and pressure off of us. We already have a lot of weight and pressure on us.
How can you follow if you've been leading?
When you come, it's presentation. So when you come with the right presentation of support, we listen. It's how you present it to us. We'll listen. But if you come with shenanigans, we going to pick that up right away. You're like, oh, that's not going to work. It's just not. I will listen to somebody who presents things to me calmly. But if you're going to come into my establishment that I've already been successful in, whatever that is, my home, my office, my store, my business, my whatever. Oh, you should do this and you should do that. Did you try this? Cut immediately. You got to come and be like, hey, I like what you're doing here. I would love to help. What? Okay. That's how I feel. I like what you're doing here. How can I help? That's supportive.
So, how do you teach a young lady who does not know how to be loving to a man?
Show them. Lead by example. And it's not just to be loving to a man. See, first off, you have to love yourself. And when you can understand and love yourself, then you can love others. When you love others, and you find that special one, and you're connected to that special one, then you already know how to love, because you share love with yourself. You show yourself love. If you can't show yourself love, how are you going to show love to anybody else? You cannot. So I teach my students to love. And I teach them to handle pressure and to handle things that don't go their way. I show them by example, because Lord knows things come up against me. And sometimes I lose it. One time I intentionally lost it in front of them just to show them that I can lose it because nobody's perfect. And one time I lost it because my feelings were hurt. And I allowed them to see that side of me, even as I cried.
Did it work?
Absolutely. Because they saw that no matter how strong you are, you can still be you're still a human with feelings. Thank you, Lauren. You're still a person with feelings. And they need to see all of that. A week before the chill spot opened, the building flooded. Toilet on the third floor decided, I don't want to be a toilet no more. I want to be a water fountain. And it ran for days and flooded out our new shop. I walked in there and water was everywhere. The ceiling was dropped, lights was dropped. My custom chessboard was destroyed. Did I scream and holler? Did I start cussing and fussing? Nope. I said, okay, I got to turn the water off. And I just instantly started going into plan. Like, okay, how do I solve this problem? First, let me move my chessboard out of the way so it doesn't get further destroyed. I called my contractor. I was like, how do I turn the water off? He told me how to turn it off. I ran downstairs in the basement. I turned the water off. That's the first thing to stop. He's on his way. There's nothing I can do right now but let's start moving things out of the way. Let's start moving things out of the way, guys. We started moving things out of the way. And then when things were kind of said and done, I said, go back to class. I'm okay. I'm okay. I got this. And when my contractor came in, he started taking over things. I went back upstairs to the class because it was a class day. And they said, Miss J, I don't even understand how you handled that. I would have been running out in the street screaming and hollering. I said, and what would that have done?
Do you think America has spoiled us? And not just Black people, all people. Do you think we are so entitled? I mean, the children got it from somewhere. Are we adults entitled? Do we act entitled? And you really can gauge this when you travel outside of the United States. Your thoughts?
I think that some people feel entitled. Yes. Yes, I do. I've not traveled enough to give that other side of that conversation, but engaging in conversations with adults and just hearing their thought process, I'm like, where you been? Because we grew up in the same age range. I mean, we in the same age range. Where'd you get that thought process from? Like, that makes no sense. Do you hear yourself? And I think that people are getting so comfortable with the way things are now that they forgot where they come from. And that's where that attitude of arrogance and entitlement comes in. They really forgot. Like, you forgot the struggle. You forgot the struggle that your ancestors had. Not only that, but you also forgot your own struggle. Because you're trying to keep up with social media. See, I look at social media, but maybe I look at it differently. One, it's entertaining sometimes, but I'm daggone sure enough not going to be on there all the time. And two, I have business to put out. I'm on there for business.
The show is brought to you by New Life Recovery Center, located at 110 St. Paul Street. It is a nationally accredited and state licensed center that provides substance abuse treatment and mental health services. Call 240. I keep wanting to make it a 410 number. It is local. Call 240-253-3663, newliferecovery.org. We're talking with Jacqui Cummings. She's the founder of Notre Maison Connects, which is a youth empowerment program right here in the city of Baltimore. She's also a veteran teacher in the Baltimore City public school system. So we thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to share with us. So I just want to get a summary here.
Okay. And I'm a school counselor. I've been a school counselor for 20 years.
The state of youth mental health. What is it and what can we do? What do we need to do? Is it a priority as it should be? Should we be demanding more from our elected officials? Or should we be looking less at government and looking more in the mirror?
We always need to look in the mirror. We first and foremost, we always need to look in the mirror. We need to hold people accountable for the things that they say and do. If you're in a leadership position, please connect to the community so you can see what the community needs the most. We need to hold our young people accountable. And in all actuality, I've found that young people want to be held accountable. Young people function better under structure. We're not doing them a favor by letting them have their way. Boys, sit down and get it together. I had to put a young man on timeout. He said, my mother don't even put me on timeout. I said, well, maybe she need to. If you acting like a 3-year-old, I'm gonna treat you like a 3-year-old, and I'm gonna put you on timeout. I don't care if you in high school. Sit down. And he sat there. So if we give them structure, they perform better. If we hold them accountable, they perform better. If we teach them with relevance, they perform better. Teaching needs to be meaningful. And yes, we should hold our officials accountable, but we have to teach them too, because they're not in the school system. They're not in the classrooms. They don't see what we go through every day.
This is
what
just
other part of
for
your question did I miss?
huh?
I said, what other part of your question did I miss?
I don't know, but it brings to mind this poem. Children learn what they live. If children live with criticism, they learn to condemn. If children live with hostility, they learn to fight. If children live with ridicule, they learn to be shy. If children live with shame, they learn to feel guilty. If children live with tolerance, they learn to be patient. If children live with encouragement, they learn confidence. If children live with praise, they learn to appreciate. If children live with fairness, they learn justice. If children live with security, they learn to have faith. If children live with approval, they learn to like themselves. If children live with acceptance and friendship, they learn to find love in the world. Children live what they learn. I got to put it out there. I got you for a second or two more. Any thoughts on our foster children?
They need all the love and support that they can get. They can connect with Notre, Maison connects too. We pay for their driver's ed. We pay for their CPR certification. We pay for a lot of things to help support them and their families.
Are many of the young people in your program foster kids or former foster?
None of them. But I opened the door to them because they're children who need the same love and attention. I don't care where they come from. We have children from different areas of the city. Mm-hmm. And some of them deal with the same problems. We have children, we have four children in our program on a spectrum. It doesn't matter. I hold them all accountable and teach them the same way. So we have students with IEPs on the spectrum of autism, but we have students from the most advanced cities and advanced schools in the city. It does not matter. I hold them all accountable. I love them the same way.
Who do you look up to? Name one person you look up to when it comes to teaching our young people, and why?
My mother and my daughter.
No, not your mother. Come on now.
I have to, because she taught me who I am. She taught me carpentry and construction.
Oh.
She taught me to be confident.
All right, I got all of that. I'm talking about out here in Baltimore City, whether they're a teacher, a mentor, or they have a youth program. We had Umar Boxing on earlier today.
Marsha Jews.
Huh?
Marsha Jews.
Get out of here. Why is that?
Because she holds no cards. She speaks from her heart, and she teaches from her heart. And I love that about her. I do. She speaks her
Wow.
mind. And she does it with integrity. She doesn't just bash people. She just, she speaks her mind.
Wow. Let's put your contact information out there. I'm gonna give you a chance to do your own plug, your own commercial right here on the New Life Recovery Show. And again, if anybody needs treatment, they deal with alcoholism, drug addiction, gambling, provide mental health services. 240-253-3663. Jacqui from Notre Maison. Do your commercial.
Oh, hi, I'm Jacqui. I'm Notre
Hello.
Maison. Hi, I'm Jacqui. I'm Notre Maison Connects, nonprofit organization working with youth 18 to 21, 22, 23. We host the Black Wall Street Expo on 25th Street in September. We host the Sparkle of Hope Charity Ball in May. You can find us at Notre Maison on social media, or Notre Maison Connects, or nmconnects.org. You can find us on social media at NM Connects. You can find us also at The Chill Spot, where we have Italianized shaved ice, specialty teas all year, and the youth in our program manage and work The Chill Spot for employment training and opportunities. We also host several events there, starting in December 5th. Every Thursday will be a special event. First Thursday is Business Bonus. Second and fourth Thursday is Chill Spot, so it's open adult conversations. And third Thursday is Intentional Art with Ice. So what you put in your ice is your business. But we're going to do some very creative art projects. You can find us at nmconnects.org, or you can call me or text me at 410-235-5222. We are located on 25th Street at 141816, 34 and 36 West 25th Street in Baltimore.
Since I last saw you in person, I met Dr. Vanya Pettigrew. She has a block down, I think the 1800 block of Boston Street, television, video, studios, that type thing. But you have damn near bought the block on 25th Street, haven't you?
I have quite a few buildings, yes. I have 5 buildings leasing to 31 businesses, hosting 31 businesses.
That's Black Wall Street, sister.
Thank you.
Great job, Jacqui. Thank you very much for joining us today. I know you're busy, and may God bless you as you continue to work with our young people.
Thank you so much. It's always a pleasure, Donnie. Thank you for having me.
There's a reward that man cannot give you.
Absolutely.
Only God. So I pray you know he shines, that Father, Mother, God shines upon you every day.
Thank you so much.
Good deal. You've been watching the New Life Recovery Show. If I think better, I do better. Have a beautiful day. Good afternoon, world.